This is primary season across America. Some recent results may give us a clue as to which way the November election may go. Will voters turn against the president and the Republicans? Is a blue wave coming? Well, joining us to provide some political insights is Tom Del Beccaro. He's a radio and TV commentator and author of the book, The Divided Era. Tom, thanks for joining us. So, were there any surprises from the recent primaries? I'm thinking especially in California.
Well, if you look at what happened in California, you might really kind of say what didn't happen. You know, for months, the media, really dating back to December, has told us a blue wave was coming. And there was polling, mainly media polling, that showed a big gap in the congressional generic poll. Would you rather vote for a Republican or a Democrat in the fall? Some as high as 18 points saying the Democrats were going to have this blue wave. But of course, recent polls have showed it virtually tied. And then you had the California primaries. Now, California, of any place on earth, should have been the blue wave place, right? This is the center of the resistance to Trump. They've filed 32, 33, whatever the last count, lawsuits against them. You have what they said would be an angry Latino vote. And they were concentrating, Nancy Pelosi et al., were concentrating on 7 seats that Hillary won, congressional districts, that Hillary won, that they said they'd be able to flip. Well, what happened on Tuesday was 6 of those 7 seats, the Republicans won the majority of the vote. Not only that, the Republicans recalled a sitting state Democrat senator and replaced him with a Republican. And so the big splash, the big wave didn't happen here. In fact, they had 2 statewide famous Latino candidates who did really poorly. Latino vote didn't come out in droves. So if the Democrats in D.C. are looking to California as ground zero for their resistance and their blue wave, they're very disappointed this week.
How about Senator Dianne Feinstein? Now, I know she's in her mid-80s, yet she won about 44% of the primary vote, and I know some Democrats abandoned her re-election run. So how do you think she'll do in November? She has a Latino opponent.
Well, and it's that Latino opponent who did poorly in the primary. He was former head of the state Senate. You know, the thing about Dianne is this inevitability factor, and I think that's hurting the Democrats in California. Everybody really knew that she would win. The question was by how much. The same goes for the governor's race. They assume that Gavin Newsom's going to be the next governor. Well, if the 2 top-of-the-ticket people, the Democrats, are under the assumption they're going to win, then their voter turnout is less. Keep in mind that the overall voter turnout in California is expected to finish around 25% of the registered voters. That's not very high.
Now, isn't across the country, Republican turnout actually is up, is it not?
Yes. So what happened in California is not good news for them. And part of it relates to the inevitability that Dianne would win and the inevitability that Gavin Newsom would be the next governor. And therefore, a lot of Democrats aren't coming out. They don't really have that intense motivation that the major media has been claiming. The Republicans, on the other hand, have the repeal of the gas tax, which is what they used to recall that state senator, and they have their anti-resistance, which matters in those 7 districts. And so motivationally, in California, the Democrats don't have a big edge, even though they have a huge edge in voter registration, 44% to 25%.
So what are the Democrats actually running on? It seems like it's impeachment, anti-immigration policy that Trump is putting forward. It's negative in a time when we're seeing a positive economy here.
Yeah, no question about it. They can't argue about the economy. We have the highest ever job listing, 6.7 million. That's an indication that the economy is expanding and that wages will be rising as employers compete for employees. You know, the party that loses a presidential election historically has 2 or 3, sometimes longer years to come up with a different message, to sort out who should be leading the party. 8 years ago, the Republicans were having this trouble as well. The Democrats don't have a message right now, and they don't have a leader that they can point to who's charismatic, who's saying this is where we should go. And what Trump is doing correctly is continuing to move the agenda forward. The Democrats are always arguing about last week. They're never arguing on the same message that Trump is. And then worse than that, they're caught up in their Russia obsession, which polling shows doesn't do them well at this point, that they don't really believe that's the issue. And then, of course, they're going to have big trouble in the month ahead because the report comes out on the FBI and the DOJ misdeeds, and that puts who back at the center for the Democrats? The Clintons. Well, the voters are over the Clintons, but the Democrats for the next month are going to have egg on their face along with the DOJ and the FBI. And so as long as the Republicans continue to move the agenda forward, leave the Democrats behind, that spells good news for Republicans. And I don't think that they're going to lose the House. I think the Republicans may lose some seats, but they're not going to lose the House.
And it doesn't seem, Tom, like they're getting much traction on the Russia investigation because people have lost interest. After more than a year, they haven't seen any evidence of collusion. And then again, they're pushing this impeachment idea. And that's a little hard when you see the leader of the free world coming up in a few days. We'll be meeting with Kim Jong-un. And then we have this big economy that's moving forward. So how does impeachment ever get anywhere either?
It doesn't. In fact, it loses in the polls. The polling shows that the independents and certainly the Republicans, every time impeachment comes up, the Democrats do worse. And so, honestly, the president every once in a while pokes that bear, the impeachment bear, and the Democrats go off on it, and it actually hurts them because he's doing, as you say, he's doing good things. He has diminished ISIS. That's a great thing. People forget that just 4 years ago, we were watching ISIS beheadings on television, and then he would go play golf. 4 years later, in large part after what Trump has done, it's been greatly diminished. And you mentioned the economy, and he continues to work on improving border security. And so those kind of things, people see things actually being done, whereas the Democrats are carping about what happened yesterday or failures of yesterday. And as you point out, the entire Mueller investigation is coming up zeros as it relates to Russia. And so, again, the Democrats are caught in the past.
Well, it seems like they just haven't learned the lesson on why Trump won to begin with. It wasn't Russia collusion. It was because some of those issues really resonate with the electorate. So finally, Tom, blue wave, red wave, something in between. What can we expect?
I think the Republicans actually could well pick up some Senate seats. There's a lot of seats, I think 6 seats where Trump won that state by 20 points. And the economy is going to be doing so well by the fall. And if this North Korea thing comes off. So I think that they'll pick up Senate seats. They will lose House seats here and there. They may lose 5 or 6 by election day. That's a normal dynamic, but they're not going to lose the House.
And it seems voters always vote pocketbook, do they not?
Well, usually, unless foreign policy takes over or an incredible scandal like you saw with Watergate. But remember, the next month is going to be dominated by the DOJ report saying how bad the Obama administration was. So that works in their favor. So I don't lose in the House.
Well, long, hot summer ahead, I think. So Tom Del Beccaro, thanks so much for joining us.